Welcome. I'm Alice Alicia Jones, and this is another one of my Living Consciously videos. I try to do a different subject every single time I appear. I know there's probably some overlap, and that's because for whatever reason, my guides want me to present something that I've presented in the past. Um, I do not remember if I ever presented a, a section on this topic. What I have today is on vortexes. This is a shift in an energy field. Energy exists all around us. We are nothing but energy. And the beauty with being able to identify a vortex, being in the presence of one, being able to pursue an area where vortexes exist, it leads you to magical experiences. More and more and more people are starting to recognize that nothing is what it seems. And we are being told, especially now, to keep our peace back to center and not let the events around us rattle us. Think about it. Two people can live in the same house. One can be rich, one can be poor, depending upon their attitude towards finances. So, absolutely do not succumb to the bad news that's out there, especially if the news does not reflect your particular point of view. So, anyway, getting back to vortexes, I, the first time that I recognized that something was really happening that I had never experienced before. This was something totally new to me. Was when a friend, a fellow minister, wanted to take us to West Virginia, and there was a particular spot in West Virginia that she felt was very, very important, and that it had, a certain vortex on that particular spot, and she just wondered what our experience would be. My reaction when I stepped into that particular area was that I felt nauseous, I felt despair, I felt a horrible sense of uh, not even disillusionment, but blackness, as black as black as black could be. And when I went home, I checked the ley line and I just went across the globe. And what I recognized was that spot connected me to Auschwitz in Poland. So it was no wonder to me that I felt the way I did, literally in a black pit of despair. So, anyway, just know that you can key in. Your own home might be on a vortex. You're going to be surprised about where I have seen them and where I have felt them. Uh, so that was my first exposure to vortexes. Then the next exposure was much more pleasant. We had again a fellow minister who left Northern Virginia and moved down south and to the side of Little North Mountain. That was the name of the area. I think they bought, I don't know, something like 300 acres there, or 300 acres is what they adjoined. I'm not sure which. So, anyway, that experience ended up being extremely pleasant because it was so different from anything else that I had ever experienced. We, the gal who owned the property, pointed to a spot at the back of the uh, house, and well, where at that point their house hadn't even been built yet. So, but pointed a spot to where the house, the backyard would be, and it was far, far uh, away, but it was clear. The land was clear. And she said she had witnessed spaceships landing there. Um, I didn't go any further with it. I didn't ask, well, I didn't tell her, show me. I just believed her because I figured she was already living in a camper on the property, and I figured she knew what was happening on her own land. Um, a vortex can be identified with a dowsing rod, and this is how they found water on her property. They had the Y shaped dowser, so where they held on to the sticks at the end of the Y, and they just walked until the single stem of the Y went down, and they knew that that's where they dug for water. This is a technique that has been used for millennia. This is nothing new. Dowsing has been around. The indigenous people have always relied on dowsing, some form of dowsing. The thing that I absolutely loved was the fact that as she was just explaining different facets of her land and talking about grandfather tree, grandmother tree, this sacred rock, that, bed of flowers that appeared just as an absolute delight to her. As I'm listening to her, like, describe her land, and she had also started to lay out a labyrinth. Now, a labyrinth is different from a maze. In a labyrinth, there's one way in and there's one way out. So that that under no circumstance will you ever get lost in a labyrinth. You just follow the trail in and out, and the trail leads you to the center. So we walked the little portion that she had laid out already. And then I looked up into the sky and I saw a cloud formation, but it wasn't in the shape, even though it was made out of clouds, it was in the shape of an old fashioned quill with an inkwell, clear as day. Unfortunately, I didn't take a picture of it. I wish I had. And then her dogs, she had 2 dogs, both of them started barking and looking to an area behind me. So I turned around and looked up into the sky, and there was stadium seating as if I was at a football game. Absolutely, exactly even. Every single seat was evenly spaced from the next seat, and an a apparition of a being sitting in that. And when I tuned in, I what I saw was angels, archangels, and ascended masters. They had come in as validation about this particular uh, place. and she was going to use it as a spiritual retreat. I to this day, uh, I don't know how much she has, accomplished towards that end, but that was her intention, and so I just felt all of this spiritual, um, uh, let's say, validation from was absolutely there. The quill and the inkwell, I felt was for me because at the time that happened, I was still in the throes of writing my book, but Own Your Power Day by Day, but I didn't hadn't finished it yet. And so that absolutely spoke to my heart that I was to finish that. That was a fantastic type of validation for me. Just finish it because there were times I'd get discouraged. Unfortunately, I'm a perfectionist, and if a phrase or essay just didn't sound exactly right, I wasn't willing to go on. But anyway, did manage to finish it, did manage to publish it. Um, Next thing I wanted to share with you is the fact that you can find a vortex in your own yard using a pendulum. And I'm just going to ask the pendulum, give me a yes. Okay, it goes back and forth. Give me a no. Okay, I haven't done a thing, but it goes side to side. All right, I'm going to ask the pendulum, are there any vortexes on my property? Yes. Is there more than 10? Yes. Are they in the front yard? Yes. Okay. So now, again, using your pendulum by cordoning off your front yard or whatever section your pendulum will identify. Remember, got to be yes or no answers. You can narrow down the area where the vortexes are. The reason I suspected I had vortexes in my front yard is because I have so much sun and the flowers just are so happy. They just explode in the front yard. So do the weeds, but every weeds are wildflowers, so they also love to be acknowledged. Um, so you can find a vortex on your own property. Again, another fellow minister does her meditations every single day outside in her backyard. And she said it doesn't matter how cold it is, whether it's raining, she'll bundle up, she'll have an umbrella, she'll make sure she's got enough clothes on to keep warm. It doesn't matter. She will continue to take and um, do her meditations outside so that the energy of the land increases her meditation. And I thought, I haven't done that. Uh, I feel I get the energy of my land when I garden, uh, either when I'm planting things or when I'm weeding or whatever it is that I'm doing out there. But she is out there every single day. So if you find that you have a vortex and it calls you you can set it up as a meditation spot for yourself. Um, there are some areas that have natural vortexes. One of them, very close to Northern Virginia, is Natural Bridge. It's about 88 miles away. It's kind of west of us towards Harrisonburg. And it was a very natural bridge, which is just a rock formation of natural stone and has a natural opening in it. That was very, very uh, sacred to the Native Americans. And so I know when I went there, I was determined to find the vortex. And so I kept crisscrossing through Natural Bridge. And until I found a spot that when I stepped into it, I felt almost as if I had stuck my finger in an electrical socket. I felt a certain buzzing going through my body. Not unpleasant, not at all painful, but, buzzing. And then when I stepped out of it, that buzzing wasn't there. I shared this with another gentleman who's, although he's not a minister, he's an absolutely outstanding energy healer. And so he went and he came back and reported to me that he had found 20 vortexes using his pendulum. So yeah, just knowing that it would be easier if he used his pendulum, that so that's what he did, and that was intriguing for me. Um, the vortexes that appear throughout the United States, many of them are open areas that extraterrestrials come through. One of those is the Upper Peninsula in Michigan, absolutely filled with sightings of spacecraft that has the only the people that live there just know that they are UFOs, unidentified flying objects, or whatever it is that they call them today. Um, I know when my husband and I were at the Grand Tetons, the guide, this was the tour that we were on, was led by a geologist, and one of the guides took us to the as when we were at the top of one of the mountains because they drove us to 8,000 feet. And then we walked the remaining 2,000 feet. And so we walked to the top of the mountain, and there were several peaks that we were on. And she had us look down into a canyon, and she said, and as I'm looking, because she's a scientist, so she's obviously skeptical. As I'm looking, I see this ring that I feel looks like a ring of fire. Not that it was alive, but it looks like it had been burned into the stone by anything that might have left that area. And again, you have to apply discretion with who you share your information with. I wasn't about to challenge her assumptions. All I said was, this energy here feels very powerful. And she agreed to at least that much. So that was kind of intriguing to me, um, to see that. And another friend, not a minister, a friend, a client who lives in Taos, New Mexico. he said they witness UFOs all the time. He said they're just so, so prevalent. And they would be coming there because of the vortexes, because of the Native American uh, sanctuaries that are there in New Mexico. And the irony was when I looked at the cup that was sitting here um, in my room, unbeknownst to me, the cup said New Mexico. So I thought, well, I don't know even when I brought that cup up here, but it just wanted to be here, part of this presentation. The next place that if you ever get a chance to go there, please make the effort to go to Sedona. There's 4 major vortexes in Sedona. You can step into the town literally as soon as you come towards the town. You can step into it and you will feel a shift in energy. The vortexes are so strong. So, anyway, another area is Mount Shasta. That's also the entrance to Inner Earth. I'll have a talk on that later. Atlanta, Georgia, that has a pyramid sunk under it because that was part of Atlantis. Um, all the In Little Rock, Arkansas, I did a retreat once in Little Rock, Arkansas, and the area that um, she had us at just made me feel like, especially at night, that we had uh, something landing there, spacecraft landing there, because all these red lights, these blinking red lights, started to appear. And the last bit that I wanted to mention to you was the cathedrals. The major cathedrals of Europe are all built on a vortex, a, a site that would either be made into a pilgrimage site or be located so as to draw the maximum amount of people. That will be it for today for me. I will see you next week, Friday. Don't have a clue what I'm going to be talking about, but definitely will be here. Thank you so much for being here and for your attention. Bye now.